Welcome into Who's Next on the X. I am your host, Tyler Dave. We are live from the campus of Northwest Missouri State University. It is my pleasure to have another guest here on the X, Dante. Dante, welcome into Who's Next on the X.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
How did you get started into media?
So by the time I got to junior high, I met our high school advisor because she did the 8th grade through freshman at the junior high, and then she was the advisor at the high school.
Okay.
And they were a really good program. Like, they competed at national competitions. They did all the state competitions, anything and everything around the area. That's what they did. And I was a part of it. Like, I was like, okay, this is cool. I never really got super into it because of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by my sophomore year, basketball, it's a whole nother story. Like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I kind of just fell out of it, got burned out, but I was starting to develop a love for media.
So I do want to dive a little bit deeper into what really draws you into broadcast media specifically, and which side of the spectrum do you really think that you're going to be interested in, radio or television?
I really just enjoy the behind the scenes of it. You know, some people just see it as a job or just someone who's pushing buttons, but the way I see it from behind is I see it as an art. You know, when you're watching, 7 to 10 people run a live show right in front of your eyes to perfection, it is just magnificent. Seeing the communication between your producer and your director talking to your tech director, your graphics guys, your replay guys, and watching them all communicate and put together a masterpiece of a show is just blows my mind. And that's really why I followed this career. Also, I don't have to take written tests. I mean, like most of my tests are going to be like, okay, I want you to talk on the radio for 25 minutes, or show me, edit me a video of a story. Like that's just one reason why I really love this field. If I had to lean one way, I would really want to just experience it all.
I actually had somebody one day say, why do you want a career that you are talking to yourself all day in a room, like by yourself? Wouldn't that make you crazy? And no, like there are people listening on the other end, and your job, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, was it's an art form, and you're creating something for them to be able to either get information or entertainment. One of those two is like usually the big two that like you try to go for.
So I'm glad you kind of brought up like talking to yourself. So I literally had this conversation with my mom yesterday, and whenever I was learning how to be on the radio in my broad ops class, I almost thought of it. You kind of have to like sweet talk the microphone a little bit. You're not really talking. You're talking to the microphone. Yeah. And I kind of find that like funny, but also it's just like I said, it's an art, man.
Yeah.
You can't act like you're talking to someone else. I mean, this microphone's my best friend right now.
Yeah. And Dante, I really want to thank you so much for your testimony here today on Who's Next on the X, because I think you've honestly helped remind me as a broadcaster to always try to strive to get better and not just to take what's given to you each day. So thank you again so much for being on Who's Next on the X, Dante.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you are listening to KZLX LP Maryville. I'm Tyler Dave. This has been Who's Next on the X. We'll be back again next week with another guest right here on the X.